Hi, Steve here. This is not a weekly practice video. This is a semi-product review, semi-quality rant, semi-maker video. I often agonize over what products to buy. I get kind of sick right here when I spend money and I agonize over what I can afford to buy, and it comes and it's very disappointing. I feel like I've gotten taken. I feel like I'm stupid. But not a lot of us have a choice anymore. You know, everything is made in China. They're all largely made by the same company. The only difference is, you know, the company ordering them says, oh, I'd rather have a gold screen, and that one wants a black screen. The first time I used this, I was really disappointed in the quality of sound. It was picking up a ton of ambient noise, and I wasn't sure if it was the gain on the microphone or if it was bad quality. What I discovered, part of it is this itself. This boom arm appears to be designed to maximize the amount of ambient noise transmission to the microphone. It's bizarre, okay? This is effectively one of these. It's basically one of those light stands that they just put a microphone on. Now, it works good for a light because a light's not a microphone. This is made of metal. It's hollow. It has 4 springs attached in suspension. And as you know from Fender amps, springs are pretty good at reverb, and they're also, you know, a 19th century amplifier. Every sound that gets transmitted to this is amplified because it's also resonating in these springs. I tested this and I'll put a recording up, but I would just go like that, and you can barely hear it, but it was getting picked up and it was creating a pretty loud noise in the microphone. I looked up a more professional boom stand, and it was $100 just for the boom stand itself, which is still not expensive for audio video equipment, but it, for instance, didn't have springs. It had like tension joints that you would tighten to hold in place. And the nest that holds the microphone wasn't suspended from elastic. It was molded plastic that had different sizes along the molding so that any vibrations that would transmit through would get lost in the different material density. So I'm kind of a maker, as you know. I'm working on my electric guitar, which I bought very cheaply, and I've enjoyed because I don't mind buying the components to make it better. It's a little different if my other guitar that I decided to buy new had turned out to be a lemon for 600 bucks. I would have been really sick. Fortunately, even though it's made in China, it's handmade in China, and Epiphone has ensured a certain amount of quality. This, no quality. All right, what I'm going to do is I am going to spend the weekend modifying this. I'm going to try to come up with ways to eliminate as much of the transmission of sound on this as I can, so that when it's attached to my desk and I'm recording with it, it's a little better than the cheap POS that it is. And what I'll do is I'll do one of them, and then I'll leave the other one the way it is, and then we'll compare ambient noises. All right? First thing I'm going to do is try to deal with these springs. Now, I got this idea from a video about the Stratocaster. If you have a Strat, that inside the Strat there are springs that are attached to the tremolo, and that's the tension that if you use a whammy bar that springs it back into place. A lot of people have noticed that when they're playing their Strat, some of the vibration is getting transmitted to these springs, and that is coming back into the pickups. So I saw in a video that to fix that, they take a piece of foam and they stick it inside the spring. So I've got the springs, and I went out and I bought for $6, which is $3 too much, a couple of black mouse pads, because mouse pads are made of neoprene. neoprene is a bit like rubber. It's a little stretchy, and it's soft and it's dead, and it's a good sound deadening material as a soft material. So I'm cutting the width of the spring. I figured I would start with that, and I'm going to try to figure out a way to stick this up inside the spring. I'll probably use a coat hanger, and then I'll reattach it, and I'll see if I think that makes it like it's made a difference. So I'm going to jump ahead because I'm going to try a few different things to try to get the thing in there, and I'll come back and I'll show you which one works. Okay, what ended up working for me was just using a screwdriver and jamming the piece of foam down inside. Now let's see if you can see. I'm stretching it out. Can you see there's a piece of foam inside? It doesn't have to go end to end, all right? It's like on a guitar string, if your big fat middle finger or ring finger is touching the next string, you're gonna deaden that string, and that's what I'm hoping to achieve with these, okay? So gonna finish the other two, put them back on, and then I'll see if it makes a difference. I've got one spring with a bit of foam jammed into it, and another spring that doesn't. Let's see if the microphone on this iPhone can pick up the difference. All right, I'm going to record it with Audacity later to see, you know, more technically which is which, but I can tell that the one with foam in it is quieter. It doesn't ring, and it doesn't vibrate as long. So I think mission accomplished on that one. We'll move on to the next thing. All right, the next thing I'm going to take a look at in terms of reducing the noise transmission is how the springs are actually attached to this. The peg that's in the middle of the arm is plastic. However, the one that's at the base of the spring is metal. Probably because it's part of the hinge and they couldn't get away with plastic. I'm sure if they could have used plastic, they would have. So I think all I'm going to do is I'm just going to wrap a little bit of electrical tape right around that, because electrical tape is basically rubber. Create insulation between the metal spring and the metal pin, because metal to metal transmission of sound is ideal. Metal to rubber or metal to plastic is not. So I'm just going to do that. I'm not going to videotape it afterwards. You can see it in the finished. Okay, I lied about not showing you the electrical tape. On this end, let me put it in there, okay. You see that little hook? That little hook is just a thin tab of metal. And I couldn't find a good way to get a piece of electrical tape into the hook without the thought that the wire would just push it out of the way. So what I did is I just actually wrapped a piece of electrical tape around the spring, and then I slide that inside to the hook, and now that forms sort of an insulated shock position for that particular spring, and then I just put the rest on the plastic. On this other one, it's on the plastic on this end, and I just wrapped a piece of electrical tape around that. The spring still pushes down into the groove, so it should still just work fine. Okay, I am conflicted about the frame. On the one hand, I don't want to go crazy. I don't want to go nuts. The fact that these are hollow and that they're metal really bugs me, because couldn't really hear it before. You can barely hear it now because my hand was deadening it, but I'm suspending the two trusses, and let's see if you can actually hear the ringing that I was talking about. I'm trying to decide how much nuts I want to go on this. The fact that it's hollow amplifies any sound going up and down it, just like a tuba or a horn or a trumpet or something, right? So I'm trying to decide if I want to go through the effort of filling the insides, or if it's enough to maybe wrap a little bit of electrical tape around the outside. It will absorb the vibrations, and you're not going to stop the transmission in metal, because inside the metal itself it will transmit The springs do that as well. All you're trying to do is absorb as much vibrations, and I'd like to stop any internal resonance in the open space inside. It seems a little bit nuts to take this apart, but yeah, I'm nuts. I'm nuts. Yeah, it's hollow. So I could definitely get some of that spray foam insulation that they use for windows and fill this thing up. I think that's what I'm going to do. I hate working with that stuff. It's messy. It gets on everything. But I think I'm going to go ahead and fill this with foam and see if that works at all. You know, this is already going to be another Frankenstein piece. It'll be the Frankenboom along with my Frankenstrat. But, you know, I'm really trying to get this to be as good as possible for such a cheap amount of money. And this is what you're not paying for, right? So when you pay $50 for a mic and boom, you're not paying for somebody that does the extra things to make it better. So you have to do it yourself. One other thing I'm doing is I'm taking the plate. The plate has a little bump. This is a bearing surface. That's the surface that goes against the metal, and it's supposed to, you know, provide a gap between the rest of the plastic and the metal. But it's still metal to metal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a piece of electrical tape over the bumps to provide a little bit of cushion. All right, so I'm going to do that on all the plates so that I have rubber between every two pieces of metal. The bolts that go through, there's nothing I can do about that, but they're screwed into plastic. They have a plastic bushing, so that should be good enough. But this, you know, every little bit helps. All right. I'm ready to try to fill these in with spray foam. I've covered the ends with tape because I know that this is going to get messy, and I want to put the end pieces back in. I also marked the part of the tape over the hole because I can't see the hole anymore, and the plastic pieces have holes in them for the screws to go through, and I don't want to have to drill a new hole. All right, time to stop stalling. So I've shook this for 30 seconds. I'm going to put a little in the box just to see how strongly it comes out. Comes out about like whipped cream. All right, I can work with that. So I'm going to jam this right down inside and then just pull it out, just like that. All right, I'm going to let that ooze out. I'm going to move on to the next one. These have pins in the middle, so they're open on both ends. Those other ones, I left the cap on one end. So I got to put a little in both of these ends, so I'm going to do it that way. Yeah, that was better. Not so much coming out there. A little more coming out there. Okay, got just a little piece of sandpaper. It's got a stiff edge. So I'm just going to slice off the end of the foam like that. And I'm going to stick this plastic piece right in there. And it looks like it's staying. I'll put a little piece of tape over the top just in case. All right, rinse, spit, repeat. Okay, done. Gonna let that sit. Gonna let it sit for a little while to cure, and then I'll go see if it made any difference. It's done. I've got the soundproofed stand here. I have the non-soundproof stand over there. I'm going to do a sound test with Audacity. I know you're not going to be able to see it clearly here, but then I'll put up a screenshot and you'll be able to see it a little bit better. All right, so let's do the test. I'm starting a new track. Add a new stereo track, click the monitor, although I can't actually hear it. I have two microphones, exactly the same gain settings. Click record. Tapping on the frame. Tapping the frame. Rubbing the spring. Tapping the spring. Rubbing the cable. Tapping the cable. That was the test. I'm going to go ahead and put the video together. If you're watching this, I've already done that, I guess. My feeling is it was worth the time to spend 20 bucks and a couple of hours to improve the quality of this. It didn't improve it a whole lot, as you can tell, but in every case, it made a little bit of difference. If you're going to do one thing, stick something soft and foamy inside the springs of your boom mic. On the other test, as I listened carefully, everything I did, I could hear it resonating in the springs. At least I imagined that I could. Maybe, I don't know, you take a listen. All the other stuff, you don't have to. If you've got time on your hands, I think putting a little bit of electrical tape between your bearings will probably be helpful as well. I'm going to go ahead and do the whole kit and caboodle on the other one, including adding foam inside, because I think it sounds a lot more solid, and I just feel better about it, so I was pretty pleased that I took that effort. Hope you found this interesting. If there's any other people out there that like to tinker or do maker stuff, maybe we can get together and make our own Facebook group. We don't have to junk up the channel here. If there are any audio engineers out there, I'd appreciate some feedback on what you think about what I did, if you thought it was worth it, if you thought it was not, if you have any better information that you can share with anybody here. I certainly don't want to steer anybody wrong. But my summary is, the microphones seem okay. The BM800, they pick up everything. They're a large diaphragm microphone. It was funny that they sounded different. They're exactly the identical manufacturer, you can tell. But they actually sounded a little different, so I switched to do the test with just this one here. I am squashing you. The boom arm, if you're gonna get it, do what you can. Okay? Have a nice weekend. Bye.